if people need to like review this at the end of class or something. And hopefully you guys listened to my advice last week about understanding for loops because we'll be going over a lot of for loops or a lot of applications of for loops. Fine. Okay, actually let's get started. I actually just remembered I promised you guys we were gonna look at for each statements yesterday. So let's actually just quickly let's just quickly go over that. Today's lesson is not very, very long. It's just more practice with for loops, I guess. Um, okay. So let me share my screen.
Wait, so what is I forgot, what is the thing to get into the Python? What is like the website called again?
Sorry, what? What is the what?
What is the website called again?
To write, you mean REPL? Or
Yeah. Oh,
okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So okay, so let's go over the break statements or conditions. Let me find the slide. I don't know where it is. Sorry. Let me just admit some people as I go. But okay, perfect. So yeah, so last class we didn't have enough time for this. So let me just quickly go over the termination and path controls. So if you guys looked at the slides, you might have stopped this, and if you didn't understand it, that's completely fine. So I'll be teaching it right now. Um, so yeah, so there are two termination and path controls, and only two in Python, and in basically every other language, there's only two. This will be called a break and a continue. Let me talk about break first, and then we'll talk about continue. So break is pretty like I guess it's kind of straightforward. So if you guys remember, um, does anyone like draw like remember like the graph that I drew last class? Does anyone like draw? I think you guys can annotate as well. Like maybe you can like draw on like the screen. Like maybe you can like just draw like the graph. You guys remember like what the format was for like a for loop? Yeah. Uh okay, let me okay, yeah. Haley, you want to go ahead? Mhm. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Okay, that's great. That's exactly correct. So, yeah, this is kind of just the general structure. Hopefully, you guys can see the annotation too, like the black one. Um, that's the general structure of like a for loop, I guess. So here we have like our for, right? It can be like the for I in range, or it can be like the wild condition, right? And in here, when we if it's true, we go in this code, right? And whenever we reach a break statement in this code, it's very simple. We just exit. That's it. That's it. Okay. Very simple. We just exit. So if we ever reach like this break right here, right, we just go to exit. Right? Inside this like condition. So like maybe I had like four and like this four like this thing up here, right? Or like maybe a while. Right? While and like x equals to like, while x is less than like 3. Right? And I can do like print x, like if x equals to 2, then I'd break. And then like x plus equals to 1. Right? So like what this will do is kind of just like it's like hopefully you guys remember how it works. So we go check this condition. Okay, is x right? X is 1, right? Is 1 less than 3? It is, right? So we go, it's true. So we go in here now. It's like this thing I just boxed, right? Boxing code. Like I haven't used these other codes before, but okay. It's like this box is this box in the is this box. Right? It's this box that we just have it. So all this code in here. So we're gonna go code line by line, right? Because that's just how Python works, right? Okay, yeah. If you guys like can just not write on the board. Like if I don't ask you to, like that'd be cool. Okay, so we're gonna go line by line again. So we're gonna check. Okay, it's one less than three. It is. So we go into here, right? Because it's true. So now we're gonna print x. So we're gonna print one, and we're gonna check this condition. Is one equal to two? No, right? It's not. So it's false. So this doesn't run, right? So now x plus equals to one. So now x is equal to two. So now x is equal to two, right? Now we go back up here, right? Because that's just what this thing says. Right? We go back up here. We check this while condition, right? Is two less than three? It is, right? So we go back in here. Right? We go back in here. Right? Now we go line by line. So print x, print two. Right? We're gonna print two. And if x equals to two, it is, right? So we go inside this statement and we break. And once we break, we just exit immediately. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. Hopefully it does. So that's kind of what the break statement is. Just once you reach it, you just immediately just exit the loop. So hopefully that makes sense. That's like kind of straightforward, I hope. So yeah. And then a continue statement. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have erased it. Okay. So a continue statement is, okay. Let me show you what it does. So remember we have our condition, right? It can be like the for line range, or it can be like a while condition, right? We go in here. This is the code inside of the while loop. And if this only run if it's true. And this, if it's false, we just exit. And then here we go back up here. Right. Whenever we reach a continue, all we'll do is instead of finishing like the code, we'll just jump back up to here. So let me like give you an example of like what it does. It kind of just skips the iteration. So can I get an example here? I don't have it. Okay, I'll just draw. I guess that works. Okay, so when we reach this, right? Let's just say we have a for I in range. Let's just say, right? We're gonna print I. Here, let's just, if I equals to one, we're gonna continue, and then we're gonna print. So remember what this will do is I starts at zero, right? So I zero, I zero. So well, is zero less than three? It is, right? Okay, so now we go in here, right? Is zero equal to one? No, it's not, right? So we just skip this, right? We don't. This is false, so we don't run inside of this. So now we go here. So print I, we're gonna print zero, right? Now we're gonna go back up because we're done, right? Now we're gonna increase I by one, right? Is one less than three? It is it? One is, right? One is less than three, right? So, well, one equals to one, right here. So now this is true. We're gonna go in here, right? Now what this continue does is now we just immediately go back up. So we don't care about what's next, what's after. We immediately just go back up, right? So now once we just continue, we just immediately go back up. We don't print anymore. We just go back up, right? Now we're gonna increase I by one again. So now I is two. Is two less than three? Yes it is. We go. Is two equal to one? Is two equal to one? No, right? So we skip this, right? Now we print I, so two. And you see how we skipped one, right? Now we go back up, increase I by what? I is three. Three less than three? No, we exit. Okay. Does break make sense? Breaking continue. Does it make sense? Hopefully it does. So I'm gonna skip this practice, but yeah, that's kind of it. So we spent like 9 minutes on this, so that's not that bad. So do those two make sense? Hopefully it does. Okay. So if it doesn't make sense, just let me know. Okay, let's go over class 5 now. So today there's not really much that we have to learn. It's important, but there's not a lot of material, like new material, right? It's an important concept, but there's not like a lot of new material like last class. So I don't know, maybe like this just gives you another week to like just practice for loops, I guess, and while loops. Okay. So yeah. we're gonna do some review and practice again. Just look at second week's homework, and then we're gonna talk about functions, which is another important concept, but it itself is not there's not like a lot of material. Right? Like yesterday, or not yesterday, last class we learned about like for loops, while loops, break, like all the stuff and how it is used. So that's a lot of material. But this class is kind of just like one idea. But it's an important idea, but it's just like one idea. So it might be like less complicated, I hope. Um, and also string and string functions if we have time. It's mostly just like a bonus. But if we have time, then we can learn about that. But yeah. So just please listen today, and I want everyone to like open their REPL or like open whatever you're coding with. Just open your REPL, and then whenever I'm coding, I want you to like code along with me, just so you get like the coding practice. I thought you guys were doing it, but just like I hope you guys have been doing it. But if you're not, like just please do it today. Like starting from okay. So what do you guys remember from last class? We kind of just did like a mini review, but like what do you guys remember from last class? But if you guys can just type it in the chat and not write on the board, like that'd be good. I just type in the chat.
I remember printing, importing, and I don't think I remember anything else.
Printing imported?
Yeah,
You mean from last class?
yeah. Wait, no, not from last class. I just thought, what do you remember? Okay,
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, from last class, from last class.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, from last class we just talked about while loops, just basically looping, right? And then we just talked about breaking condition and continue. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, big review. I'm gonna skip it, but it's just basically just reviewing last class. So yeah, why don't you guys answer these two questions? We just learned this, so okay. So yeah, let's go over. Um.
Um,
Yeah. Did someone say something?
wait, for the iteration, I don't think we learned that last week. Or
What'd you say?
wait, did we the iteration last week?
We just learned this like 2 minutes ago. Like this, like 2 minutes ago. Like we didn't learn it last week, but we like just learned it because it was from last week. Okay, but let's go over it.
No, like did we learn this last week?
No. We learned it like now.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
We didn't learn one last week, but we learned one like just now because I didn't have time to teach it last week. Okay. So yeah, this one is D. Remember, continue. It skips an iteration, right? It skips an iteration is basically just one. So like let me draw the graphic. True. False. Right? An iteration is basically one run of this code in here. Right? So well it skips an iteration because like if it reaches a continue, it just skips the iteration. Like if I like a continue here maybe, or like if I is equal to 1 and then we continue, we're gonna skip the iteration right here. Just go back. So it's and then 2, it's no. So this and this B and D. Why? Because every single time we're going from numbers to 0 to 4, right? And when we go like 4i, or I guess 4i in range 5, right? Well, every time we're here, we're checking is I less than 5, less than 5. So well, 5 is not less than 5, so it'll never reach 5. I will never reach 5. Okay. Okay. So, we're gonna skip this practice as well. And then let's go over the homework. So, yeah, guys, please don't draw on the board. I don't know. Just if this becomes like a problem, I guess I'm just gonna disable it for everyone. So, okay. So let's go over the homework. So this was homework from class 2, where we talked about like okay, the homework from class 3, I think. Basically just talks about the if conditions, all that, right? So it just said like given an infinite ton of food, we're gonna ask the user how much food they want since a ton is a lot of food. Hopefully you guys like have read the homework at least, have like looked at it. So yeah, you guys just remember the rules, right? So what the rules basically just state is we're gonna have an input. Yeah, okay, perfect. So the rules just say we're gonna have an input, and this input in this case I just call the food, right? We're gonna have an input, and this kind of just adds it all together. So this whole thing, there's something called like you can combine a bunch of like functions is what we're gonna learn about today. So this kind of just says food equals to floats and like input. Right, I'm too lazy to write.
Wait, I thought last class's homework it was the name guessing game.
Yeah, I know. So I go over the homework from the class before last class. So you guys have more time to work.
Oh, okay.
So and then this thing I just circled the same thing as float. We're gonna do an input, food equals food input, and then food equals to round food. And then like round food, right? Kind of just nesting it. So you can see that, okay, we're gonna first input it. This turns into a string of what we inputted, convert this into a float, and then round this to the third decimal place. So now we're gonna check this. This cover here. So now we're right here. So if food is between 0.001 and 0.009 inclusive, we're gonna print perfect because that's just what the rules say, right? And then else if the food is bigger than 0.009 or bigger than 0.009 or less than 0.001, right? We're just gonna say oh yeah, that's like a lot, right? So yeah. And then if it's bigger than 0.001, we're just gonna say that's too much. That's kind of just what the rules say. Okay, yeah, if REPL doesn't let you create a new REPL, probably should have went over this before, but if REPL doesn't let you create a new REPL for this class today, I want you to like write on like an old REPL, just like comment things out and then just write on an old REPL. But maybe like for the last, I can like link a video on how you download VS Code. So this is gonna be like the new place we're gonna write on if you can't write on a REPL. So yeah, it's like more professional. It's kind of, I guess, a little bit tricky to use, but I'll teach you guys how to write this or how to use this. You can use Spider if you want, but I don't know. Spider, it's very similar to VS Code, but I don't know. VS Code is mostly just used for like writing. So like Spider is used for like other things as well, like data science and machine learning. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on the homework or can we move?
Why is there a 3 at the end of the input thing?
3. Oh, this 3 right here.
Yeah.
So this 3, do you remember how the round function works? Like round, or we have our number, and then we have the decimal place we want to round it to. So if you look at like the directions, it says we're gonna round the number to the nearest 3 decimal places. So we just round this to nearest 3 decimal places.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't remember round.
That's okay. Yeah, good question. Okay, any other questions or can we move on? No? Oh yeah. If you have to do like ocean science, like if you model things, you're of course gonna use graphs. And that's what Spider uses because Spider is really powerful. It has like their databases are very good. So you can do a lot of like cool like data analysis stuff. I think that's maybe what your mom does. I don't like or what your mom's job includes, like data analysis. So yeah. You can use Spider if you want, like if you have on your computer. But I'll be using VS Code because it's like I don't know, it's like the professional I guess thing to like write code in or write code that's just writing code, like practicing your syntax and stuff. Okay. Um, okay, so for this class, if you don't have VS Code downloaded and your REPL is like full and you can't create new REPLs, I want you to write code on an old REPL. Okay, just comment out all the code. Like remember, use the 3 quotation marks, right? Like 3 quotation marks. But I want to comment all your old code and just write new code. And at the end of class, I'll link a video on how you can download VS Code. It's pretty it's pretty straightforward to download, but in order for you to create a file or like it to download like the whole application takes a while. So I don't want to like spend class time to do it. So yeah, let's talk about functions. So a function, again, this is the okay, well, this is my definition this time. So functions are probably again a very important idea in Python. And basically, and what it's used for is like it's able to like store a block of code that you can reuse like many times, right? You kind of think of it as like it's kind of an analogy. It's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of I can't think of an analogy. Usually I'll like come with like a clever analogy, but I can't really like think of one right now. But it's kind of just like okay, it can store like a block of code, right? And you can like when you call the function, right? The function will run the block of code inside of it, right? So yeah, let's like go over what it is. So like when I started learning functions like a while ago, it was like I was like, okay, why is a function useful, right? Like, I mean, it stores a block of code, but like, why don't we just, write the block of code inside where we want to run it, right? And not call a function, right? But like that might be like a problem. But like, think of it as like, okay, functions like we're gonna learn about parameters in a second. So we're gonna have a function and it has its own parameters, and the parameters is like its own private set of variables, right? And this private set of variables, right? When you run the code inside of it, you're gonna use that private set of variables. So you can kind of think of it as like a function. I guess in real life, you think of it as like a robot, right? And like your robot will like do many tasks, right? Your robot, has like make your breakfast. It has like I guess I don't know, do the dishes or like clean the house or something like that, right? It has like these three simple functions, right? And every single day I wanted to make breakfast. I wanted to I don't know, like make breakfast. I wanted to do the dishes and I wanted to clean the house, right? But what if I wanted it to clean the house twice and I wanted it to clean the house at like 4 p.m. and like I don't know, like 3 a.m. I don't know, right? So if it like I asked it instead of like writing okay the clean the house code, right, with the variables at like okay at this time like 4 p.m. right, we're gonna write all the code to clean the house like maybe it's like 1,000 lines of code or clean the house and like another like 1,000 lines of code right after at like 3 a.m. To clean the house. Right? It's kind of like I guess like not practical to do it. It's like instead of it would be really easy if I had like a function, right? And if I call the function and I gave the function a time, right? It'll like clean the house at this time, right? And then like that's just very simple. Yeah, and you it's like kind of yeah, you don't have to repeat a lot of code. But maybe it'll make more sense as we get into like the depth of it. So, yeah. Yeah, so that's just a lot of like uses of functions. I'm gonna skip this slide, but it's just a lot of stuff. Basically the general idea of a function is it lets you make your code shorter, your whole program shorter. And it's nice just is because like um you don't write as much code, right? You can instead of writing 100 lines of code, maybe you can write like 10 lines of code, right? So yeah, this is the Python format. So Python, so remember, anytime I write this, right, the things in color are a generalization, right? So this in Python is 100% you have to have. So def, right? And then I give it a name. So let's just say a name my function, right? Okay, let's do that this way. Right, like def my function. That's my handwriting. And then I give it some parameters. Right? I can give it 0 parameters, I can give it 1 parameter, I can give it 2, I can give it 10,000. It doesn't matter, right? I just give it some parameters, right?
What's the parameter?
So I'll explain what the parameters in a second. We're gonna, and then in this code, right, we're gonna have the code inside, my function, right? And whenever I call my function, it's gonna execute all the code inside. And also, a function can return something. So what it does is basically when I call the function, I can make it give me a value, right? And I can make it give me like a string, I can make it give me a float, a boolean, a data structure, but we haven't learned about that. But like I can make it give me a value. And how I do that is inside the function, right? Where do something is, right? Where this do something is, I make it return a value, right? I can make it return one, I can make it return a variable, I can make it return, a string, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can make it return something, right? And this is how we call a function. I'll explain what parameters are in a second. But what we do is when we define a function, let's just say def name, right? And then we have a bunch of code here, right? We have a bunch of code. And then when we outside when we want to call the function, what we do is we call it by the name, right? So we call it by this name. So we say name, and then we parentheses, the two parentheses, and then we give it, we define the parameters for that function. And let me explain what the parameters are, but just understand how we define a function and how we call the function. Those 2 points. Make sense? I hope it does. But yeah. Okay, so we define it and then we call. We just learned those 2 things, right? Define it, call. So here's some examples. I don't have parameter definition. I guess I don't. Okay, maybe it's better if I just explain it. So a parameter of a function is its function's own private variables. Does that make sense? So a parameter, right? A function, they have their own parameters, right? And it's basically like their own private set of variables, right? So how it works is and the variables, of course, remember variables are a name, right? You have to give them a name, right? So remember, this is how we define a function. Def, we give it a name. This name for this in this example is greeting, right? And we parentheses, and in here is our parameters, right? And now in this function, we have one parameter, right? And this one parameter is called name, right? And what we're gonna do is here, these are its own like private variables, right? So when I'm in the greeting function, when I'm writing code for the greeting function, right, I can access this name variable, and this name variable will have the value that I define when I call it, right? So for example, in here, when I say here, right, when I call it by the name, right? Then remember the name is greeting, so I call it by the name, parentheses, right? And I give a value to name, right? In this case, I gave it the value, this string Joe, right? So now this greeting, this name is technically like, you can think of it as like, this name is like equal to Joe, right? His name is equal to Joe. Does that make sense? And in this second example, right, I gave it the name Bob, right? Now it's Bob. And it's not Joe anymore, right? It's Bob, because now name has a value of Bob because I gave it the value Bob, right? So now when I'm in here, it'll print hi, it'll access the value inside a name, right? Remember, name is our parameter, and it'll say print hi Bob, right? So if I give it greeting one, what will it print? Will it print hi Bob, hi Joe, something else? Will it print? Right, hi one, right? Why will it print hi one? Because now name has a value of one, right? It has the number one, right? Name, this parameter has a value of one, right? So now we're gonna print hi, comma, one. So hi one, right? Does this make sense? And if I give it something else, greeting. Let's say, let me pick someone. Say greeting. Then he will this print. Then hello. Can you unmute? And like, what does this print? Uh, Danny, are you here? Okay. Are you here or are you just maybe falling asleep? You don't know. Yeah, give me an answer.
Don't know.
Wait, Alan? Wait. Wait. I'm calling Denny. Sorry, not you, Alan. Okay. Does anyone else want to help Denny? Maybe you can just unmute. This first one unmute.
Prince Hi Denny.
Yeah, Prince Hi Denny, right? Because name Denny, right? Now name has a value Denny, right? And in here we're gonna print hi name. Well, what value does name have? Denny, right? So now we're gonna print hi Denny. Denny, does that make sense? Give me an answer.
Uh,
Yes or no? Denny, yes or no?
I'm kind of confused.
Wait. Okay. Okay.
I don't know.
Did
I
Denny say
just,
that or Alan say it? Wait, who said that? Who said that?
I mean,
Okay, someone said that. I don't know. I don't know who said that. Okay, but let me explain it one more time. Okay, so when so this is a parameter, right? Whoever said that. Okay, if you have a question and I'm like gonna explain it again and like it makes sense, can the person that asked the question be answering? Because like it's kind of just like I don't know. I'm like it's like spending extra class time just so I can re-explain this. So we have to move on. So like if you don't answer and then I keep on explaining, say you don't understand, then I'm just gonna move on for now. Okay. So name whoever said that is name a parameter or what? Okay. Who said I don't understand? Well, I'm gonna move on. Is name a parameter? Okay.
yeah, it
Yes.
is.
Okay. Okay. Good. So when I go name, right? Name is parameter, right? The parameter has the name, right? When I go in here, right, and I print hi, right, and I want to print the value in name, it's gonna be the value stored in this name. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Okay. Outlet. Does it make sense?
Wait, can you repeat that again?
Okay. So when I'm in this line, right, I'm printing hi name. I'm gonna print. Okay, you understand when I print hi name, I want to print the value inside a name in this name. Make sense? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. When I print hi name, now I'm gonna print the value, the value inside a name, and the value inside a name will be the value inside of this name. Make sense?
Oh, so
These are
when
the
you
same variables.
print, like when you print like when you print hi, and then you let's say name is like James or something, it'll also print the James that is like up there on the define line.
Yeah. So these are the same. You're referencing the same variable. Thing is that, and you're referencing this variable, right? Because name. You can think of it as like this name is like now I'm putting like name equals to like some value, right? And whatever. Let's just look at this. When I'm calling a function, you understand this is calling a function, right? Out. You understand that this is calling a function, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when this is calling a function, we're calling greeting, because remember that's name. And do you understand that this is giving a value to this name right here? Does that make sense? Alan? Okay. Okay. So when I'm over here now, right? When I'm giving, this now this has the value of Joe, right? This has the value of Joe. So now you can think of it as like, okay, now name is equal to Joe. So when I print hi name, it prints hi Joe because name has a value of Joe. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So can I move on now, or does everyone understand?
Yeah, I think I get it now.
Okay. Let's do a guided practice. So I'm just gonna walk you guys through how to do this code. And if you have any questions, just let me know. But you gotta give me some feedback when I'm answering your question, right? So I know if you understand. So we're gonna create multiple functions that greets a person based on their name and time of day, right? So let's okay. Like, why don't you just throw me some ideas here? How many parameters might we have for this function? So we're gonna create a function. The function might just be called greeting, and we're gonna greet someone based on the time of day. So let's just say there are three times a day, right? There's morning, afternoon, and night, right? So how many functions might there be? Like how many parameters in the function might there be? Two, right? I think there's gonna be two as well. So that we're gonna have two of these, right? So let's just say def. Remember this is how we define a function, right? Def greeting. We're gonna give it two parameters. We're gonna give it the name, right? And we're gonna give it the time of day. Okay. Why? Because well, when we call the function, right? We gotta let this function know who they're greeting, right? The name of the person they're greeting, and the time of day, so they can greet the person accordingly. Two functions or two parameters, right? In this function. So, well, let's just say now we're gonna have different greetings based on the time of day. So if time of day is morning, we're gonna say good morning, right? If time of day is in the afternoon, we're gonna say good afternoon. And if time of day is night, we're gonna say like good night, right? So how might we do that? Like based on like what we learned in our old class, in our past classes, how might we learn that? Will we learn it by I don't know, like or sorry, how we do it? Like maybe any ideas or not? Yeah, Denny?
So like the name can be like anything. So like maybe the name can be like Bob, and the time of day like February 12th,
Okay,
2021.
I just said like time of day, there's three times of days, right?
What?
It's okay, there's three time of days, right? So there's morning, there's afternoon, and there's night, right? So we're gonna greet the person based on the value of time of day. So time of day is remember a parameter, right? So
Afternoon.
okay, wait. Uh, Okay, let me tell you what the problem is, right? You gotta understand my question first, right? So how okay, if time of day is let's say morning, time of day has a value of morning, right? String morning, we're gonna say, good morning, name, right? Whatever the name is. Right. Let's say the name is name, right? And time of day is morning. We're gonna print, you know, um good morning name, right? If time of day is equal to the value of afternoon, we're gonna print good afternoon name. If time of day has a value of night, right, we're gonna print time like good night name, right? So based on the value of time of day, we're gonna print different, things. So like any ideas on how might we do that? So why don't we use an if statement? Right? We just do if time of day is equal to this value, like if time of day is equal to morning, we're gonna print good morning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if right, how do I check if time of day is equal to morning? How do I check if time of day is equal to morning? Is equal to the string morning. What do I write here? Anyone? So make sense? Right? Print good morning. Make sense? If make sense? Didn't we just do this? Does that make sense? Okay. So now when we call it, just give it a name. Just pick someone. What do you guys think this will print? It's gonna print. It's gonna print this. Is it gonna print this? Is it gonna print this? Which one? This one. So this is number 1, number 2. When I call this, which one will print? 1, 2, or 3?
1.
1. Perfect. Good job. Right? It's 1. Right? Why is a 1? Right? Name, when we call it, name has the value of value. When it's time of day has a value of morning. Why? Because when we pass it in, we're passing it in like this. Right? And you can see that there's 2 parameters now. And when there's 2 parameters, we separate it with a comma. Okay. So kind of just how it works, like this and this, this and this. Just kind of just match it. Right. So now it's gonna print good morning. Let's see if it actually prints good morning. It says good morning, Alan. Right. What if I give it, someone else? What do you guys think this will print? 3, right? Why? Time of day
3.
equal to evening, right? Good evening, night. Good evening, night. Does this make sense? Hopefully it does. So yeah, this was just like some predefined stuff. But have you guys heard of local and global variables? So this is gonna be the last main thing we're gonna learn about today. So have you guys heard about this before? Or no? No? Okay. That's cool. Yeah. I was expecting you guys to say no because it's like, it's one of the more advanced things. If you don't understand this, it's probably fine. But it's just a bit more like advanced. You kind of first have to understand how functions work. So hopefully you guys do. I don't know. You guys didn't ask any questions, so probably not. Right. So you guys probably understand. So a global variable is a variable that is recognized both inside and outside the function. So if I had a function, let's just go back to our old function. Right. What I mean by inside and outside the function is all code in here is inside the function, right? Because they're indented, right? And all the code out here is outside the function. Does it make sense why? The code in here is inside this function, and the code in here is outside this function. Does that make sense? Okay. I hope it does. Hopefully it does. So to make a function global, right, all we have to do is make it so then, okay, wait, let me show you what happens first. So all functions are defined as a local variables are variables that are only recognized where it's defined, right? So if it's defined inside the function, it's only recognizable inside the function. Or if it's defined outside the function, it's only recognizable outside the function. Does that make sense? Do you want me to repeat it? Okay, I'm going to repeat it one more time. So global variables are recognized both inside and outside the function, right? And local variables are recognized if a local variable is defined inside the function, it's only recognized inside the function, right? And if a global variable, or if a variable is defined outside the function, it's only recognizable outside the function. Right, so defined inside the function, it's only recognizable inside the function. If it's defined outside the function, it's only recognizable outside the function. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. And all variables are always predefined as a local variable, no matter what. Python just does that, okay? When you define a variable, it's always local, right? You can make it a global variable. And how you do that is how you do that. All it is you just do. Let me show you what happens first, right? So for example, I print like let's just print my just define my variable as one, right? If I try to print my variable in here, what will happen? Oh, sorry, wait. So what will happen? It's gonna say my variable is not defined. Do you that makes sense, right? Because when the local variable, because all variables are defined as local, right? If my variable is equal to one, right? This is defined inside the function, right? And well, I can't define. I don't know what it's outside. When it's outside the function, I don't know what it is anymore, right? So in order to make it global, all I have to do is global my variable and make it a global. And you can see now that it. Wait, one second. Okay, wait. I think I have like an extension in VS Code that makes it a bit different. So I think that might be one second. That might be one of the reasons. It's like kind of broken. Let me do it in REPL because REPL is just like the basic. Um, so I can't create any more new REPLs. So let's do this. Oh, okay. When I made these slides a couple of years ago, I think they changed something here. So I can. Okay. So I guess it doesn't work out because when I made these slides a couple of years ago, um, they I know this doesn't work. Now when I do this, global map, says it's not. Maybe they made it like this now. My variable. This is 0. Okay. One second. Because now these global and local variables, they they're a bit different. Um, they're like different from a couple of years ago when I did this. Okay. Okay, what if we just skip this? Don't worry about global and local variables today. We're gonna skip this. I need to figure out what happened with the REPL because when I okay, I'm not sure what just happened. But let's just skip global and local variables. Like today, just hopefully you just understand how you define a function and how you call a function. I told you it wasn't just much stuff. These global and local variables should be a thing, but it depends on how Python does it now. But let me figure out what's going on at the end of class, and then next week again, we'll just go over, what global and local variables actually are, because there's some there's like some issues, right? So how about you guys try this weather thing now? Don't worry, this won't talk about global and local variables. It was like a niche. It's a very niche thing. But how about you guys try this weather thing first, and then we'll just go over the answer. I'll give you guys like 5 minutes. So until 47, and then yeah, if you guys have any questions, it's the time to ask them, and then I'll like let me look at how Python does global and local variables because it wasn't the same as before. Okay. I'm gonna type these directions in the chat. If you guys just need a reference to directions, let me know. Because I think I did it in the wrong. So uh, okay, okay, wait, one sec. Everyone, everyone stop it. So okay, Glover's are just working like that. I just put it in the wrong I put it before. So how it works is when I call greeting, greeting will make my variable a global variable, right? So that's kind of, I guess, I don't know if that's easy to understand. When I call greeting global, it'll make my variable a global variable. So after when I wanted to print my variable, you can see that it prints something, right? And if I didn't have this, right? If I didn't have this, right? I'll say my variable is not defined, right? So if I have this, you can see that now it prints one. So when I make um a variable global, right? It's able to be recognized both inside and outside the function, right? But I have to make the variable global first, right? And in order to make it global, I need to call the function first. Because when I call the function, that's when it runs the code inside of it, right? That's when it runs the code inside of it. Because now you can kind of think like, okay, that's like I guess another example of now functions only run the code inside of it when it's called, right? So when I call the function, now it makes my variable global, right? Now when I print my variable, it works. But compared to when I print my variable here my variable is never defined as global because I've never run this function in the past before, right? If see my variable's not defined, but when I do this now, okay, it's gonna print it twice, but now you can see that now it's a global variable. Right? So does that make sense? Remember, a global variable is a variable that is able to be recognized both inside, right, and outside the function, right? And a local variable is only able to be recognized in the function that is defined. And also one niche thing in Python is when I do this, my variable. So functions defined outside, okay, variables defined outside a function is always global. So I think, let me you see that it works, right? So variables defined outside the function are always global, and variables defined inside a function is local to that function. Does that make sense? Yeah, I hope it does. So yeah, I guess I need to change my slides a little bit, because they're like not the same as before. But um, does okay, local and global variables make sense? And let me. Do you guys want more time to finish this, or do you guys just want me to go over it?
You can have more time.
Do you want more time, or do you want?
Yeah, could we have more time?
Yeah, you can have more time. Sure. I'll give you guys like 5 minutes until like 5:01, and then we can just go a bit over time. Okay, so it's about 501. So let's go over this thing. So this thing you could yeah, you could do it without a function, but I just wanted you guys to do a function with this one. And there are like two ways you can do this with the function. But let me just go over yeah, so if you got the function, it's okay if you forgot the function. Let me teach you. There's like another way you can do it, and maybe let's just write three functions. Let's write three functions. Right. So function. Let's write what to where when it's okay, and then we're gonna print right where a I don't know. What do you guys want to wear when it's sunny? It's like really hot right now. It's
A
like what would you
shirt,
guys-
a
sorry,
t-shirt.
what?
A hat and sunglasses.
Hat and sunglasses.
And a t-shirt, I guess.
Hats, sunglasses, and a t-shirt. Cool. Okay. What about Def what to wear when it's raining? What would I wear when it's raining?
Raincoat and maybe bring an umbrella.
Okay. Wait, wear raincoat? Sorry, what is it? Raincoat? Wear raincoat
Bring umbrella.
and umbrella? Sure. Okay. Def what to wear when when it's it doesn't snow here, so
You can wear like a coat.
A coat.
yeah. What's
A coat and a scarf or something.
sorry. I just opened another workspace. Okay. Wait.
A coat and a scarf and gloves.
Oh. Scarf. Scarf. I spell scarf right. I think it looks kind of weird. Scarf is a good word. Okay, and gloves. Okay, perfect. So now let's let the user input something. So how would we write input? How about Danny? You want to answer how you write input? So Danny? Danny? Do you want to try to write input?
Danny.
Okay. And maybe Danny can't hear me. It's okay. So how we write input is, let's just say weather. Right? Weather equals to input. What's the weather? Let's just assume that the user will always input like the three types of weather: it's sunny, rainy, or snowy. Right? And remember, inputs are always predefined as a string, so we don't have to do anything. Right? If weather equals to sunny. Does that make sense? What will we call when what function will we call when it's sunny?
What to wear when it's sunny.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So when it's sunny, we're gonna call the function what to wear when it's sunny, and it should just print wear hat, sunglasses, and a t-shirt. If weather equals to rain, what will we call? We're gonna call what to wear when it's raining. If weather equals to snowy, we're gonna call what to wear when it's snowy. Right? And let's just say it's rainy. Wear a raincoat and umbrella. When it's sunny, wear sunglasses and a t-shirt. And when it's snowy, wear coat, scarf, and gloves. Okay. So this kind of shows you kind of what functions are good for. So for example, maybe I had like a temperature thing, right? I can let the user also input like, okay, let's just say, like the weather thing, it has like, it's like the thing and like the temperature, right? And we could also just say we can input like another temperature. Temperature input is like what's the temperature? Right? And we're gonna in this case, temperature is just a number. Right? Just give it a bit. So now we can also, now that there's two ways, right? We can instead of just inputting weather, we can also input temperature. And we just say like, okay, if temperature is like above 80, it's sunny. If it's below 50 to 80, not inclusive, it's rainy. And if it's below 50, it's like snowy, right? We can do that too. So if we had to write that, that means we had to write, and then like, we had to like, we would write it and we call the three functions again, right? But that's why like functions are good, right? Because now like, it would be like this, right? And like, we just say like, okay, temperature bigger than 80 or bigger than or equal to 80. And when its temperature is bigger or is less than 80, and temperature, and temperature is bigger than 50, right? And also when temperature is less than 50, right? So now you can see that we called it, we used this twice, right? And twice they did the same thing, right? But what if, for example, in here we had a bunch of more code, right? There's 100 lines more code in here, right? 100 lines more code. And it might do some like complicated thing. I don't know what to wear in it. It's just like a bunch of more code, right? Would I want to copy this code in here and in here, right? Wouldn't that make me have 200 more lines of code? 200, right? What if this was 1,000, right? 2,000 more lines of code, right? I can even have another thing, right? I don't know, the day, right? Just if it's like day one, if like it's like, I don't know, day one, like what's the day? Let's say like, okay, if day is equal to 1, and then if day is equal to 2, and if day is equal to 3. Okay, now we call this function 3 times, right? What if in here there's 1,000 lines of code, right? This is 1,000 lines. This will have to, if we didn't call the function, right? We have to call this 1,000 lines. This 1,000 lines. This 1,000 lines, right? That's 3,000 lines, right? But if we had a function, right? If we had a function, that function would just have 1,000 lines in it. And when we call it 3 times, this was only 3 lines, right? So now we went from 3,000 lines to 1,000 lines, right? That's, a pretty big decrease, right? A decrease by 3 times, right? So that's a lot, right? I can have another thing, another input, right? And it could be like something else, right? I don't know. And we have to call this via function, right? So you can kind of see that functions are really good for reusing code, right? And there's also something very more complicated. Oh, we might learn it later on. Something called recursion, and it has to use with functions calling itself. Okay, I'm not gonna confuse you guys, but yeah, it's something else. We can see that these are functions are really good for reusing code, right? When the code is all the same, we can reuse it, and maybe it can have some parameters too, right? It can have some parameters, right? And when we call these parameters, these can have different parameters, right? So that saves us like a lot of effort, right? In this case, it might have been more effort because this function is only on 1 line, but it had like 1,000 more lines, right? Like 1,000 more lines. Right? If it had 1,000 more lines, that helps us save a lot of code, right? You guys can understand that, like why functions are very useful. It helps us save a lot of code, right? And maybe in here, if it's suddenly wanting to do something else, or some other stuff, right? Stuff. So I don't really want to write like in here. I don't want to write like 1,000 lines and have code for other stuff. Right here, I have 1,000 lines, and right when it's raining 1,000 lines, and then it's other stuff, and then when it's weather snowing 1,000 lines, other stuff, and I do it for all of these. That's too bad, right? That sucks, right? And for this other stuff, it's repeat. I can make another function. Right? You can see how clean this code is. Right? It's very very clean, right? And like it helps you organize your code, and it helps you chop down a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, also you can leave if you can leave if this stuff, right? If you have some other stuff. So yeah, so hopefully you guys understand how functions use. I did kind of spend a lot of extra time, so hopefully you guys can see the importance of a function. It can help you save a lot of code, right? Help save a lot of code, right? So yeah, that's kind of it. Some other stuff, so string functions, but we don't have to go over that today. But so we do have some extra credit if you guys want. I haven't given anyone a 0 yet or a bad grade. I hope not. So there's some extra credit if you just want like I don't know like a 200% in class or something. I don't know. So I want you guys to do this temperature converter. So you're gonna have 2 functions. You're gonna have a Fahrenheit to Celsius and a Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay. And I just want you guys to write that. That's the homework. I'll post it in the thing, and I'll post the slides in the thing. in the Google Classroom. So that's it for this class.